You are about to listen to Upon the Rock broadcast with Pastor Lauren Shakir of Foundation of the World Church. It is our prayer that each teaching will help build a godly foundation in your life. Please be sure to visit the church website at thefoundedworld.org for further information about this ministry and to view more teachings. Now, here is today's message.
I think about 2018 when it comes to New Year's resolutions, and I'm not real big on New Year's resolutions, but I'm going to use it in a way because some people, they do resolutions, and I think it's good. You got to have a vision. Yes. The Bible says without a vision, the people does what? Perish, right? The Bible also says write the vision, right? Make it plain. Not only so that you can be focused, but other people behind you can see what you see. And I think that a lot of us have vision for 2018. How many of y'all got visions? Let me see your hands. All right, good. So I taught you all on Ugly Christmas Sweater Day that God didn't just give you a baby for no reason. And he fully expects for you to give birth to it, and it should be alive and it should kick, right? He wouldn't give you this tremendous word and then just leave you out there and say, okay, the rest is up to you. With every vision, there is a level of provision, right? So we know that whenever God never wastes his time. If he's going to waste his time and tell you that you're supposed to do something, how many know he's going to get behind you and help push you to get it done? But he's not going to do all the work. You have a part to play. God has a part to play. You can't play God's part, and God sure enough ain't going to play your part. Y'all get it? So if that is the answer, that means we need to do everything that we should do in order to make sure this vision, let's just say a business or a ministry or book or what else y'all be doing? Y'all on the move so much. What do y'all be doing? It's usually business, ministry, marriage, kids, family, finances, whatever. You have something. You don't just exist just to go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then come back again, right? So one thing that I have learned over the years is something that I'm going to try to take my time, but not take so much time that I bore you all to death. But one of the things I recognize is that if you don't understand or if you're not sensitive to God's timing, no matter what you do, even if it's the right thing, it won't produce the fruit because you're out of timing. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 says it best, right? For every time there is a what? Season. Now, you cannot miss the season. Even though I don't know what season strawberries grow in, but I don't think it's in winter. Unless you're in one of those places like, I think Australia, somewhere like that. They grow strawberries in winter. I don't know, but it's one place where strawberries grow in winter. But for everybody else, it's normal. Strawberries don't grow in winter, right? They grow normally during the summer or maybe springtime, I don't know. But you cannot plant something in the wrong season and expect for it to grow in a different season just because you like that season, all right? I'm just trying to let you all know when it comes to certain things because you can do the right thing at the wrong time. And you still expect God to bless you and you're wondering how come it's not working. You have to recognize seasons, or in this way, you got to recognize timing. Everybody say timing. So simply, my teaching is what? God's timing. God's timing. Because you have an idea, and a lot of us just say, okay, it's a new year. I need to just jump out there and do it because I don't want to be late. I get that. But if you don't recognize God's timing, you won't be successful. And I'm using success in the terms that you all will relate to because you know when you are successful, right? So go and write your New Year's resolutions, do your vision board, declare over this year, do all of that good stuff, but you got to make sure that you're in God's what? Timing. Because his ways are not your ways. And his calendar is not your calendar. But if you're sensitive to the Holy Spirit, you will know it's time now to move forward. Y'all get it? Everybody go to Exodus chapter 1, please, and thank you. Exodus chapter 1. My favorite character in the Old Testament. Yes, it's true. Love this guy. He's the first pastor of the Bible. And he had a tremendous call. How many of you know Moses had a tremendous call? But Moses, as you all know the story, I promise you I'm not going to bore you, but it begs time for us to kind of go through this for those of you all that are not familiar with it. I'm going to try my best to read a lot of chapter 1 and 2 and some of chapter 3, okay? So try to stay with me because I think each verse in these two chapters are beneficial to what we're trying to do, okay? All right. These are the names of the sons of Israel. This is chapter 1, verse 1. These are the names of Israel who went into Egypt with Jacob, each in his families: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. Verse 5, the descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. Verse 6, now Joseph and all his brothers of that generation died. Everybody say that generation died. Now listen to me. When it comes to a certain generation that has died, that means there's a changing of the guard. There's a new generation. There's a new shift of happening. And a lot of times people operate the same way when that generation has died. When you see that something has closed, don't just do business as usual, because it could be that that generation has died and you have to learn how to keep up with God's timing to go to the next level. Y'all get it? 2017, yeah, that can be a generation that died. A certain change in your life can be a generation that died. All right? Follow me. Watch this. Verse 7. But the Israelites were fruitful and multiplied greatly and became exceedingly numerous, so that the land was filled with them. Verse 8. A new king who did not know about Joseph came into power. See, there go the season now. It's a new king. You got this new people, and he came into power. He did not know Joseph. He did not know the history. He don't know where you come from. Verse 9. Look, he said to the people, the Israelites have become too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly. Shrewdly does not necessarily mean evil. A lot of times when you see the word shrewd, you think it's something evil, but it actually means have a plan. Because the Bible says, Jesus says, you need to be shrewd like the world. He said that. He's not saying you got to be evil. He's just saying get a plan and think and have a strategy. That's what shrewd means. All right. Uh-oh, lost my place. Verse what? 10? Okay. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. And if war breaks out, they'll join our enemies and fight against us and leave the country. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. They built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. Now, I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to pick up in a minute, because you got to understand one thing is the world system is designed to keep you in bondage. I'm not trying to speak hate, but if you are a kingdom citizen, you are a threat to the world system, okay? Because you don't think like them, and the world looks at you like, uh-oh, if we don't put them in some kind of control, then they're going to be over us. That's why you see, number one, I think, when it comes to spiritual things, you see a lot of attacks on the body of Christ. Nobody attacks the Buddhists and the Muslims, unless they've blown up buildings. But everybody else don't go against them as hard as they go against the body of Christ. Have y'all noticed that? So if you're a kingdom citizen, not a church folk, but just a kingdom citizen, you become a threat to the enemy. And he says right here that if we don't do something with them, then they're going to overpower us. So we need to make sure we're in control and not them. So I want you to look at basically how the world works. I just use, for example, a job. You know you're supposed to have a certain thing that you're supposed to be doing in your life, but you wake up to this job that you hate, okay? You wake up to this job that you hate, and you know inside of you that you're created for more. You say to yourself, I'm going to my work, but I am not this job. You speak to yourself about all the things that God has stored up in your heart, but then again, here you go driving Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to this job that you don't like. And in a way, you're like being oppressed, like how it is right here, because you know what you're created to do, but you just can't find the means or the time to get out of this, because I got to go to work. I have to pay bills. But why did God give me this vision and expect me to just kind of just lay down and then just go through this mundane thing. Okay? That's what's happening right here. I'm created for more, but God, when are you going to, that's what we pray. Lord, when are you going to take me out of this job? Y'all hear me? When are you going to take me out of this? And sometimes God is not going to take us out. He wants us to create an opportunity for him to bless us outside of that. Follow me. Because a lot of times we do. I ask the same thing. Lord, you can just stop this if you want to. You know, you can rain down heaven. You can do whatever you want. But God is not going to go against his own system either. So a lot of times he gives you a creative mindset. He gives you a kingdom mindset. And then he sits back and see how are you going to get enough frustration to actually go and do something. The reason why David had to get out of the palace is because Saul was throwing spears at him. If you take away the spears, David would have been comfortable in the palace. However, he never would have became king. So a lot of times before you become king, God has to have somebody throw spears at you, stir up the nest so you can feel frustrated, and then you start looking around and saying, I got to do something. That's when you start making a strategy, or you become shrewd and start making a plan together, because if you don't want anything, you're not going to do anything. But let enough people get on your last nerve. You'll go home and be looking around and be like, okay, I need to hurry up. And it may be fueled by anger. It may be fueled by frustration. But guess what? You got that plan out. Y'all get it? And a lot of times people don't want the tribulation, but the tribulation work is patience, the Bible says. And so you need those haters at the job or whatever, because they are working for you to get you out of that comfort zone. Otherwise, you're going to stay in the palace and you're going to just keep on just being comfortable, because after all, I'm in the palace, I'm not with the sheep anymore. Y'all get it? So sometimes you need a new Pharaoh that say, who are these people? I don't like them. And you're like, why don't they like me? Have y'all ever said that? They're like, they don't even know me. They don't like me. Well, you know why? That's Pharaoh. There's a new king that says, you need to get up out of here. Now, they ain't going to tell you that. But by the Spirit, you ought to recognize, I need to get up out of here. I need to make a plan, because if they mess around and fire me, then I need to not be, the hood thing almost came out. I can't just be looking ugly. Y'all get it. So anyway, so he forced them with forced labor. They made Pithom and they made Ramesses. You know what Pithom and Ramesses mean? I'm going to show you. Number one, pressure builds character. Okay, so you need that pressure from this new king. Pithom means house of Atam. Atam means, I think I have it in here. Okay, it means a house of basically the house of somebody else that's not your own house, basically. Okay, I can go into definition of this one, but I'm not. Ramesses means Ra created him. They built Pithom. They built Ramesses. Ra created him. Another world, another God. You're building a system of operation for another empire. It's not kingdom. Yeah, you're getting paid for it, but it's not the kingdom of heaven. It's another God that you are help create and build and make better. Okay, you're making other people rich. Okay, that's the purpose of a job, but it's not what you are created for. Okay, so you have the house of another God. You got something else that that's created for another system. These are the two gods here, and so they were working and they were being oppressed to build the house of another God whose success was for another purpose. You got to ask yourself, if God was to bless me, what does my success look like? Am I going to be successful just so I can just say, ooh, look at me? Or do I have success with a purpose? Some people can't handle success because the only thing they're going to do is just spend it on themselves. A poverty mindset, whenever they get money, they spend it. A person who doesn't have a poverty mindset, the first thing they do with money, they save it. They plan. They have a purpose of why I got this money. I'm not going to get $1,000 just so I can spend the whole $1,000 on me. I'm going to think about God. I'm going to think about saving or my future. Then I'm going to think about myself, spending on myself. And sometimes people haven't taken that class. And so when they get money, they spend it. And then they beg God, give me more. But you got the provision. It was for that vision, but you just taking it for just all on me. Y'all get it? And a lot of times we are, working and being oppressed to build another house, and, God's name's not in it. But here we are working for Ra and working for Ramesses, another god, another system of operation. So that's what happened right here. The Bible said they oppressed them. And verse 11, I'm going to go back there. So they built slave masters over there and oppressed them in forced labor. They built Pithom and Ramesses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they oppressed them, the more they grew. Let me see. But the more they oppressed them, the more they multiplied and spread. So Egyptians' land came into dread of the Israelites, and they worked them ruthlessly. In other words, as it got worse, you thought it was going to get better because you were obeying the rules and doing everything you're supposed to do, but it seemed like it's getting worse. All right? Watch this. And they worked ruthlessly. Verse 14. They made their lives bitter with hard labor in bricks and mortar, with all kinds of work in the fields, and the hard labor of the Egyptians used them ruthlessly. Verse 15. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives. In fact, I don't want to go there real quick. I have some of the notes that I have here. So in other words, I was telling you all about kingdom people. You're not going to fit inside the culture. And, you have to be content of knowing that it's okay for you to be different. Okay? A lot of times God made you different, not so you can fit in, but so you can stand out. But too often, a lot of people think that if I'm different, something must be wrong with me. Well, no, God created you for a reason so that you don't have to see everything like everybody else sees. Are y'all following what I'm saying? All right. And so I have right here, without trouble and heartache and pressure, you won't grow and reach your full potential. I think that's very key right there, is because your trouble even has a purpose to it. A lot of times people try to get away from the trouble. It's hard in this job. It's hard in this family. It's hard in this marriage. It's hard in this whatever, trying to build this thing. It's hard. How can it got to be so hard? But what happens is, if you don't have that heartache, you won't have the pressure that you need in order to grow to your full potential. Now, I'm not saying that trouble is making you this. It's resistance. As you're working out, most of us, we start a New Year's resolution and we start to try to hit the gym, right? We want to get back in shape. Well, it's hard in the beginning because that resistance is pushing you. But you need that resistance in order to get the biceps and the triceps. So don't run from the trouble. I'm not saying just jump into it, but I'm saying that you have to recognize the purpose of the trouble, okay? God will not give you trouble like this if he don't think that weight is on your level. You have a spotter. It's not going to kill you. It's just going to provide some resistance. You're going to be sore in the morning, but you need that in order to really be what you're trying to be. Y'all get what I'm saying? So that's why, don't run from the trouble. You take the trouble on the chin, you see what's going on, and then you use it for your advantage. All right? So pressure always builds character. When I was a youth pastor, my mentor used to tell me that all the time. Pressure builds character. Pressure builds character. Because it'll always be hard to do something. But if you don't have that hardness, then you won't grow. All right? My next point is you got to build something that will outlast you. In other words, your New Year's resolution, your business, your goal, your whatever, is it just for you only? Or is it for people that's coming behind you? You got to look at it. Is your vision selfish for just you? Or can it impact somebody else coming behind you? Y'all get what I'm saying? So that's what happened here. Is build something that will outlast you. Right here we pick up when it says right here that the king, verse 15, the king said to the Hebrew midwives, those whose names was those hard names, verse 16, when you help a Hebrew woman in childbirth and observe on a delivery stool that it's a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. Verse 17, the midwives, however, feared God and did not want the king of Egypt, did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live? The midwives, verse 19, follow me, I'm going somewhere. The midwives answered Pharaoh, The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are vigorous. They give birth before the midwives arrives. So God was kind to the midwives and increased and became even more numerous. All right, I'm gonna stop right there for a second. I got a few things that I do want to say right here. Is the world is competing for the best that you have to offer. They don't mind if you just have something just for the here and now. In other words, like I was telling you before, how they built the two cities. They were only building something for just them. But for you, you have to build something when it comes to the things of God. But it cannot just be something just for you right now. All right? You want to be successful, which is great. But you have to look at what's coming behind you. Is this success is just for just you only? All right? The next thing I have right here is the world wants your pride and joy to help reproduce their agenda. The boys were the pride and joy, okay? They wanted to kill the boys because the boys are the ones that help reproduce. And so you have to look at some of the things that God has given you when it comes to your vision for this year or so. If it's something that's reproducing, if it's something that, let me say another way, if it's something that you know that is valuable, a lot of times that's where the enemy will attack it then, because it means something. You can always tell if the enemy is upset with you if every time you're trying to do a certain thing, that's where you get attacked at the most, especially if it means something strong to you. You know, I share with you all every now and then that I get attacked a lot in this ministry, okay? And I do that because I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So after I get done teaching you all, a lot of times I go out there and I get attacks all the time. But it's purpose behind it because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I don't start crying about it. I just know it comes with the territory, okay? Some of the people that watch me on the internet, they don't know me and they talk all against me and everything, I don't respond to them. It's because I know that things like that come with the territory. Y'all get it? So sometimes you have to kind of just take tough skin and say, this is a part of the process, and don't, duck in and try to please everybody, because it's not going to work. Some people are supposed to just take your pride and joy. It's supposed to just take everything from you, okay? Y'all get it? So don't run from the trouble when you start seeing attacks because you're trying to move in this direction. All right, y'all got that so far? All right, the next point that I have right here is, and if I'm going too fast, let me know, but I have a few things that I want to do. The Bible says right here that if you see a male child, I want you to throw him in the river, right? That's what he told the midwives. Kill the male child, and let me see what verse I'm on. Y'all help me out. What verse am I on? 22? Okay, that's where it's at in 22. He says, then Pharaoh gave orders. In fact, I'll read 20, and then I'll go to 22. So God was kind to the midwives, and he increased them, and they became even more numerous. In other words, you got to have people around you, even if they're not related to you, that will help you do what you do. They're not, see, these people right here, I like the midwives because they were not money-driven people. They were just kingdom people. They feared God more than they feared Pharaoh. Yeah, they fear God more than they fear Pharaoh. So in other words, you get people that will come across your life that they have the same thing to help you out, but they're not money driven. You know how you can get some people that they want to help you only because they got something in it for them. They only want to see what you can get from them, and it's only based on money only. It had nothing to do with the purpose, but just more of the money. Well, you need the right kind of midwives around your baby or your vision or your goal so that these same people won't end up throwing your baby in the river. If y'all get what I'm trying to say. Verse 22 says that. It says right here, because I jumped ahead of myself. Verse 21, and because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Verse 22, then Pharaoh gave orders to all of his people, every boy that is born, you must throw it into the Nile, but let every girl live. In the Nile, you have the crocodiles. You got things that will kill the baby, right? And so there's always going to be crocodiles in the river. And what I got right here, I'm sorry, I got a few things that I want to say, but crocodiles in the river is point number 3. You're always going to have something in the river that's trying to eat up your dream, eat up your vision, eat up your plans. And you can almost see them sometimes, the crocodiles in the river. One of the points right here that I have is everybody else's vision and dream is being thrown into the river, but it can have a chance, before it can have a chance to reproduce itself. The boys are thrown in the river before they can give fruit, all right? Your dream may look like that, nobody from your class, nobody from your family, nobody from this is going to make it. What makes you think you're going to be able to do it? Look at where you came from. People start comparing you. And then if you're not careful, you compare yourself to other people. What happens is if you do that, you're throwing away your own dream. All right? And so right here, look what it says in chapter 2. Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that the child was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got, my version says papyrus basket, which is pitch and tar, and she placed the child in it and put it along the reeds in the bank of the Nile. All right, so it doesn't say there was crocodiles here, but in my imagination, I already know there was crocodiles in the river. All right, so right here, it says right here that, everybody else's dream is being thrown into the river. A lot of times you'll see other people who started something, probably much like how you did, and they didn't survive. They kind of ended up quitting, or they said it was too hard. And so it never got off the ground, it never reproduced itself, and so sometimes you don't see a point of reference of what you're trying to do because nobody else has actually been successful in it. But yet God told you this is something that you're supposed to be doing. Y'all get what I'm saying? And so the dream that you have, yes, it's going to be crocodiles in the river. There's always going to be somebody that probably try to swallow it up or whatever. But you have to be able to guard it, like it says right here. Because in this teaching, the child is like your dream, like I just said before, or your vision, or whatever it is that God has birthed in you. And you have to do your part that you can only hide it for so long. You can only tell a certain amount of people, like I told you all last time. But then it gets to the point that when that dream is starting to really develop and kick, then there's a time when you have to actually just see if it's going to actually survive. Okay? You planned enough. Now it's time to see, will it really survive what's out there? Y'all get it? And so what I have right here is the vision is too fragile to expose. It can be killed by one critic, like I tell you all often, one hater, or one person who never fulfilled the vision on their life. That's why I say you got to be careful when you talk to certain people, because if they don't have a dream, if they don't have anything going for them, you better believe they're going to try to eat yours alive. Okay? And so I have that as, sorry about that, went too far. I have that as a sign that you want to make sure that you're covering it with the pitch and the tar. Make sure you place your thing in a covering so that crocodiles in the river won't get it. But again, it doesn't mean that that pitch and tar is going to protect it. It just simply means that you know that you can only do so much, and then there comes a point where you have to be able to step out and put something out there. I hope I'm making sense to you all. All right. The crying of the vision. I'm almost done. I only got 6 points in this teaching. The crying of the vision. The Bible said when she no longer could hide him, she exposed her vision to the world to watch and see what would become of it. That was basically right here when she put him in verse 3 in the basket to see what was going to happen. Verse 4, his sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Okay? Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbanks. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to get it. She opened it and saw the baby, and he was crying. Everybody say he was crying. All right, so he was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This was one of the Hebrew babies, she said. Then his sister, the baby's sister, asked Pharaoh's daughter, "What shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse this baby for you?" She didn't even say, "That's my brother." Verse 8, "Yes, go," she answered. And the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take care of this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took her own baby and nursed him and got paid for nursing her own baby. Verse 10, When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she named him, Pharaoh's daughter named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. Let's go back to verse 8. Yes, go. The daughter went and got the baby's mother. So in other words, as you can see right here, it's always God's plan for you to be paid to give birth or to take care of the thing he birthed inside of you. So the very thing that he, placed inside of you, is supposed to take care of you. Y'all hear me? I know you're working for somebody else, but you have something inside of you that's supposed to take care of you. She produced this baby, and it stood the test of times with the crocodiles in the river. And then when it came out of that testing time, because they're always going to have a testing time, then Pharaoh's daughter said, yeah, I'll take him, and I'm going to pay you to take care of it. Y'all hear what I'm saying? And so to gain focus on what we're supposed to be doing, you ought to have a plan that's so, I guess, complex that you can see the beginning and the end of it, and you're not shocked on different stages that happen in this dream. Y'all get it? All right. Cover it and protect it. That's the pitch and tar I was talking about. Cover and protect it as much as you can, and then put it out there. In this year, you've already covered it enough with prayer, fasting, the right kind of people. But then it comes to a point where you got to put it in the river and see if it's going to last. That's what happens. It's the land of risk. And nobody want to take risks because you want to calculate every little thing. But the crying of the vision means you can't hide it anymore. It's a little bit too big for that. So now, since she did good for hiding him for 3 months. But once those 3 months are up, or whatever your season is up, when that thing changes, you got to be able to shift with it and place it out there with the crocodiles in the river. And once it lasts and it stood the test of time, God will provide a provision. But he's not going to provide the provision until you put it in the river first. Hope y'all follow me.
That is good.
So the crying of the vision, you can't go to sleep at night because it's still crying. You can't focus on other things. The reason why you plan your life around certain things because it's a crying of the vision. You can't just be average and just build up somebody else's business or build up somebody else's job because your own vision is crying out and saying, you can't neglect me. Y'all get it? And so that's why you got to cover it and protect it, because sooner or later, it's going to cry loud enough where somebody's going to respond. And then when that happens, you got to be ready to just say, okay, I'm ready for this. Instead of saying, oh, really? I didn't know that was going to happen. No. See, your faith, do you have the faith for success or faith in fear? In other words, if you are really believing God that this is going to be the best year of your life, and it happens, why are you so shocked then? If you had faith to believe that. In other words, you didn't really have faith then. You had faith in the fear that it's going to be just like 2017, 2016. It's going to be another average year. But what if God wants to blow your mind this year? I'm not trying to give you all those little 20 years. I'm just saying, but what if this is the year that God will say it's supposed to breathe this year? You, the one who birthed it, need to have the faith to say, okay, I believe that. You place it in the basket, you covered it with the pitch and tar, you put it out there, it survived the crocodiles in the river. Now all of a sudden, it's bringing in some fruit for you. Y'all get it? You're supposed to, take this with the right heart, you're supposed to be blessed with the thing that God has blessed you. If God blessed you with it, it's supposed to produce fruit. Not so you can work like a dog to keep it going. Sooner or later, it's going to get easy. And you don't have to work as hard because why? It's specially designed for you. Moses' mother didn't have to do anything except for breastfeed her own baby, and she got paid for it. How many mothers today can you see that happening? That lets you know how well God wants to work with you if you are willing to work with him. But you have to take the time. Hear me, family. You got to take time to take risks. Because if you don't take risks, you're going to be just average like everybody else. Don't let another year go by with you being average. Okay? If you're going to do anything this year, at least take a risk at least one time. Tell yourself that. I may lose everything with those crocodiles in the river, but I'm going to take this risk one time. And I'm going to see what happens. Because what if it does happen? Selah. What if it does happen? What if the very thing, you spend all that money to kind of do this, and you say, oh, Lord, if this don't happen, then I'm going to the broke house. But what if it happens so? What if God gave you that provision just so for this one moment, Esther? What if you were raised up for such a time as this, for this one thing to happen? That vision keeps crying long enough, and you can't put a bottle in its mouth any longer. It's about time for you to actually step out and see if this thing is really going to live. And I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, you do.
I know what I'm talking about. If you don't take the risk, you're going to always sit on the shore and say, I wonder if that would happen. And then you're going to do like most people do. Oh, I think I'm late. So they just jump out there out of season, and now it's not working at all. You have to be sensitive that, oh, you know what? There's a changing of the guard. There's a new king. I need to be able to shift with this new era. You hear me? And yes, it's going to scare you to death because she put her baby in the river. You don't think she was sweating bullets? Oh no. It's always going to be risky when you try to put yourself out there because nobody likes rejection and nobody likes failure. Nobody. I haven't met one person that said, oh, I love rejection and failure. No, everybody despises rejection and failure. But if you're going to go out there, you have to really, like when I used to be a runway model because of my height and hair and everything. So one of the things they taught us is you got to learn how to take rejection because you may wear something down on the runway and the vendor won't like it and they'll say, I don't like him. And a lot of people would take that as, oh, they don't like me. No, they don't like what you're wearing or whatever. But they had to train us how to handle rejection. Y'all see what I'm saying? And then when it comes to a business or a vision or a goal, you have to go in it from day one recognizing I can handle the rejection. You may get 100 no's, but all you need is one yes. But people don't want to go through the 100 no's though. I don't want nobody to slam doors in my face. Well, they're going to slam them. And the quicker you learn how to handle a door slammed in your face, the better. Okay? So you got to go for it sometimes, regardless of whatever happens is going to happen. But I'm going to put this baby in this river. And I believe that I got something special. And if something special is going to happen, then the provision is going to happen then. I'm almost done. Are y'all following me? All right. So cover it as much as you can with the pitch and tar, the prayer, fasting, the right kind of midwives. Cover it as much as you can. Because then there's the next part that I have right here is God's ultimate goal is for you to get paid to do something that he has already birthed inside of you. I already said that already, okay? It's okay if you don't name your vision. A lot of times God will give you something, because the Bible says, well, I'm going to get ahead of myself. Well, you know the story already. The Bible said that Pharaoh's daughter named him. It never said that Moses' mother named him Moses. Did y'all ever catch that? They just called him the baby. That was his name for 3 months, the baby. But when he got drawn out, she called him what? Moses. It means to be drawn out. In other words, you may be creating something and you don't have all of the stuff in play. You don't have the full business plan. You don't have the full vision. You have the core, but you don't know what to call it. Oftentimes, God will give you something, and then somebody else will say, oh, this done this for me. And then out of that revelation, you get the name. Y'all get it? So sometimes don't try to say, it's not ready yet. It may be as ready as you can take it. But you have to wait until somebody else sees what this God-given dream or whatever is doing for them. I hope I'm making sense. Because right here, you would think that, oh, my vision is incomplete. Why? Because it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have this. It doesn't have all the finances. It doesn't have the people helping me. It may be a little incomplete. It looks like it got holes in it. But you know what? It's strong enough to still withstand everything else. And a lot of times you got to go with what you already have. Because if you're sitting around waiting for it to be perfect, it may never come. If you're sitting around waiting for it to just have all of the stuff in play before you decide that you're going to expose it, you may miss it. You got to use what you already have right now, and if it's already surviving the crocodiles, then use it then. You hear me? So keep the plans that you have, but some of those plans, it may be incomplete because you may need somebody else who see what you see to connect the other dots. So don't reject other people that want to help you, because they're probably partners with you in a level where you can't get to. What verse was I on, family? I don't know. Let me see. Hebrew baby, she answered, yes, go and get her. Okay. So I'm on verse 10 again. Then the child grew older, and she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him, Pharaoh's daughter named him Moses. I drew him out of the water. All right. Now, here's where we're at right here. We got 2 more points. And the next thing I want you all to do is recognize right intentions, wrong performance. I think this is one of the things that a lot of people fail at. I failed this thing plenty of times. And right here, let's just move forward to on verse 11. One day, after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were. I know in the movies it shows that he didn't know who he was. Yeah, he knew who he was. According to the Bible, he knew exactly that he was a Hebrew. He knew he was a Hebrew being raised as an Egyptian, okay? So, in other cartoons or whatever, they like, oh, he had to discover, like he got some awakening. That didn't happen, not according to the Bible. He knew from day one, you are Israelite who's being raised as an Egyptian, okay? So right here, verse 11. One day Moses had grown up. He went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. See, he didn't think he was an Egyptian. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. There it goes again. Verse 12. What is that? Verse 12? What does one of your versions say? Anybody, it doesn't matter.
I have, so verse 12.
Yes.
He turned to look around,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
Very good. What does yours say, Minister Shannon?
Moses looked around and saw that no one was watching, so he killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand.
Very good. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Miss Victoria?
After looking in all directions to make sure no one was watching,
Mm-hmm.
Moses killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand.
Very good. Minister Sandra, what do you got?
It's looking this way and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
All right. Anybody else got a different version? What you got, my brother?
And he looked this way
There it is.
and that way.
Yep.
And when he saw that there was no man,
Yep.
he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
A lot of people look this way and that way, and then they make their move. Hear me. You have a vision. You say, I'm anointed to do this. I'm gifted to do this. And you start looking like this. And then you act. The problem with that is he looked this way and that way, but he didn't look up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we move too prematurely because we see the coast look like it's clear. It looked like it's time for me to move, so I'm just gonna jump out there. But if you don't get any green light from God, you can look all day like this, and God is up there like, no. And too many people has jumped out there too early, and he is a deliverer. He knew he was a deliverer. But he jumped out there too early because he didn't get orders from headquarters. He killed the Egyptian, and he buried him in the sand. In other words, that looks like success, but that's only one success. You are a deliverer for the whole nation. What you gonna do? Be stealth and Batman and kill everybody in the sand? No, you gotta have a system, a plan. And you only get that from making sure, Lord, is this the right time? Here's my point, you all. You're gonna have opportunities to just jump out there. And a lot of times people think, it's a new year, it's time for me to jump out there. That may be true. However, if you don't look up and see this is the right time, then you may do some damage to it. I've done that, like I said before. But you know what? God has also helped me in my mistakes because my heart was in the right place. I did that believing it was God, but it wasn't God. It was actually just me. And a lot of times some things, because I'm a deliverer, the Bible says, he was a deliverer, he knew he was a deliverer. He knew if I'm going to deliver you, then I must kill this Egyptian then because he's mistreating you. And now since I'm a deliverer, ain't nobody else doing it, I don't see anybody around, I guess that's my green light. And a lot of times you move forward and say, well, it looks like this is right and I got this connection. I guess God is saying I need to move then. But if you get it that way and you never sit down or go on a fast or pray or seek the face of God, you can get out of sequence. And you did it right intentions, but you had the wrong performance. Okay? And so please hear me when I say that, you all, because this bearing in the sand, you think is right, but it actually comes back to haunt you because you didn't do it God's way. So people found out about it. You all know the story. Some of my points. Moses recognized a need, and decided to respond. Just because a need is there does not mean you are the one that's supposed to respond. Jesus said, the poor you have with you always. So in other words, you got to be sensitive of when is it my time to move. Because it's always great to have a plan, but make sure that plan is also in God's timing. Everybody say God's timing. He looked both ways, but he didn't look up to get orders from headquarters. If you don't remember anything, please remember that. Because you get people that's just eager. They jumping up in people's face because you won a few victories, but that doesn't make you qualified. You know, you probably got a few victories under your belt, and now you think you know everything. No, you got to eat humble pie. Because the higher you go, the more humble you ought to be. And then you got to be able to withstand the heights up there, which means you need a stronger foundation because the wind blows harder up at the top. And so sometimes people just, because I won this, because I did this, you ought to listen to me. And I get people like that. They know what they're talking about. But if it's not time for them to move forward, then you shouldn't move forward. And that's where sensitivity comes into play. You have the right intentions, but Lord, is this the right time to move? And he'll let you know. God is not going to have you on a string all your life. You just have to really diligently seek him. Sometimes people pray, Lord, bless what I'm about to do. Okay, and that's why it's not working. Because that's not prayer. Prayer is, Lord, this is what I want to do. I believe in you for this. Is this the right time? And you sit there and listen. That's old-fashioned teaching. But you sit there and listen. And when God gives you, yes, it's time to move, then you move. But don't just, I feel like this is you, Lord, so I'm going to just do it. Now, finding balance. Sometimes you may have to do that because you may on deadlines, but if you feel, if you step out there and it's obviously some kind of closed door again, you probably need to stop. If you keep toiling and keep toiling and keep toiling in something that you think is God and God doesn't get behind it, stop what you're doing and sit down and stop looking around. Stop looking at, okay, this person on Facebook doing this and this person doing that. I can do the same thing. Don't do that. You're going to find yourself doing just like this. You got to wait until it's time because you could be a little premature. And you got to gain wisdom on the next move. Because you got zeal, but you had no knowledge. Y'all hear me? And you may be right in what you're saying, but it's not time for you to do it yet. And sometimes God will give you that insight just so you can know when to recognize it. But that doesn't mean he wants you to move right now. He just wants you to be sensitive on what it looks like. So by the time it is time to move, you can be ready to go. See, when it's time for you to do it, God will make sure everything's in place. And you don't have to worry about, what this and that. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that because it's already provided for, according to what I was talking about earlier. But my point is this, don't try to assume God is moving now and you haven't really heard from God. Again, you may need to fast just to see, is this the green light? Because I got everything else in place, but I don't have a green light from you. You're looking too much around and it's not working. Y'all get it? You can bury one at a time, but God's will is for you to bury all of them in the Red Sea. But you're just doing it just one at a time. So you can only do so much in your own strength, but God's perfect plan is for you to take them to the Red Sea and do it all at once. It's easier when you do it God's way. Otherwise, you keep on doing something, you're going to get older and frustrated, and then you're going to say, I quit. This is too hard. And so you throw away your dream, you throw away that whatever it is that God has given you because it was too hard. The reason why it was too hard is because you didn't wait on him anyway. And God got all the time in the world, but we don't. All right. Number 6, go do it again. Y'all know this story, right? By that time, Moses knew he did something wrong. He fled because everybody saw that, you killed this Egyptian. So he went into Midian, and you know what he did? He said, I forget about all of this deliverance stuff. I'm just going to live a normal, average life. I don't want to do no prayer meetings. I don't want to do any of that. I tried that thing before. I failed. I fell on my face. If God wanted me to work, it would have worked. And we bury ourselves with excuses like that. That I feel justified because at least I tried. Okay, you tried, but out of season. So what happens is you're going around doing your own life, doing your own thing, and kind of just keeping God, let's say, at a back burner. I'm almost done, you all. And then here come the call again. Oh, Lord. It's like, I thought I forgot about this thing. And then you see a burning bush, and you're like, what is that? And he said, the bush is not burning up. And then when your attention goes toward that, God starts speaking again. Build that business, build that ministry, write that book, do this, whatever he's telling you to do. And you're like, Lord, I tried that already. I failed. You saw what happened with the one Egyptian. And he says, you all know the story. Take the shoes off your feet because the place you're standing is holy. Stop walking on what you can control. Take it off. And let my presence go between your toes. You got to be able to feel me this time. Because you're already walking on things that you can handle. And that's why things are not working. So take the sandals off your feet, Moses, because the place you're standing is holy. And then he says, of course, in verse 3, chapter 3, y'all know this, but let's go ahead and just read it a little bit. Verse 7. Verse 6. Then God said, I am the God of your father, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. Verse 7. The Lord says, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt, and I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, to bring them out of that land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Budlites, the Nightlights, all them nights, right? Verse 9. Now the cry of the Israelites have reached me, and I have seen the way Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people of Israel out of Egypt. So now you go, Moses. Oh, and you all know the story. He started making excuses. I can't talk. I don't have this. I don't have that. But you know what? All of that time of you spending in the back of the desert, God has been giving you humility. See, once you fail, there's nothing like failure that gives you humility. When you fail enough times, trust me, you all ears now. You ain't got the last word. You're the person that's saying, now what did you say again? I'm just taking a few notes. Why? Because you don't want to feel that sting of failure. You hit your head enough times on that brick wall, and now all of a sudden it knocks some sense into you that, wait a minute, maybe what I was doing was wrong. See, that's what failure does. That you come out better once you have messed up. Are y'all hearing me? So when you mess up, please take the time to start learning, but then there will come a time where God will visit you again and say, it's time for you to pick it up again. You had enough break. You licked your wounds enough. You remember that failure. Now, I still hadn't forgotten about that dream in you. Go do it again. And you're going to have to go and do it again with all of the wisdom that you've learned, all the failures, and you're going to have to do it again. And for some of you all, probably this is the year. You've already learned enough from all the other failed years or whatever, and it's just time. You hit your head on the wall enough times, and the Lord is saying through the burning bush, go do it again. Pick it up again. Lord, I don't have this. I know you don't. But now you're not looking left and right anymore. You're looking up. And that's all you need to do is look up. I can take the little bit that you do have and I can form a nation out of it. Are y'all hearing me?
Yes.
God can take all the failures and all the stuff that you said is incomplete. Wait a minute, Lord, do you mean I have to go back and rebuild this? No, let's take what's already that you have left over and watch me blow on it. Watch me blow on it. And then you'll be able to see that I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But if you're just trying to just do it yourself, then me and you are in competition, Moses, because you're on the throne and I'm not. So God says, I had to let you eat humble pie a little bit. I had to let you go through all that failure. I had to let everybody slam doors in your face and talk against you just so you can recognize that you don't need them. You just need me. That's all you need. That's all you need. You can do me against the world, Tupac, if you want. If it's just me and you. I had to throw that in, y'all. But you got to do it again. Before the burning bush experience, there will be a few more tests. Sometimes God will have to build up your confidence again. You already have what it takes. I can't talk. Well, I got Aaron for you. Well, what is that you got in your hand? A staff. Throw it on the ground. It turned into a snake. He grabbed it by the tail, not by the head. He grabbed it by the tail. Then he put his arm in his cloak, pulled it out, and it was leprosy. He said, then he took water. He poured it on the ground. It was blood on the ground. He said, if they don't believe all of this, just take what you've already learned in the desert and then do it on a larger scale. A lot of times, all the stuff you've been doing in secret is only for preparation for what's going to be out there. Y'all hear me? Yeah. So that's why you have the passion that you have, because you're just practicing on the backside of the desert. Sooner or later, he's going to tell you, go do it again, and you're going to be exposed. And you can't say, y'all watch me. No, you don't got to gather a crowd. They're going to come to you. All you got to do is just be in a position that God says, show up in Egypt. You show up in Egypt. That's it. Everything else, God will start doing. But you have to be able and be in a position and not look left and right like a lot of people do. They get this far, they write their business plan, they do all of this, and they look left and right and they fail. So what you got to do is be sensitive. And if the Lord says, go to Egypt, okay, I don't want to do it this time, but I'm going to go out of obedience. Obedience is always better than sacrifice. Y'all know this. All right, almost done. At this time, he walked away. He did it because it was his duty, and it was a part of him. In other words, there will be a time where, you're not running from this anymore. You're only doing it out of obedience. It's your duty, and you're just God's man, God's woman, God's servant for this hour, because God didn't waste his breath speaking into you of something great unless he wanted to use you. Otherwise, he could have used somebody else. So he didn't waste his breath on you. That's why he told Jonah, go to the Nineveh. Jonah said no, and God could have easily went to somebody else. But the Bible said the word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Why? Because there's something about the way you say it, something about the way you look, it's something about the way you present it that I can't use anybody else. That's why you're so different. And I need you to say it the way you say it, because that's why I made you like that. So that's why you can't be a clone of anybody else. I have a lot of people I look up to, but I can't beat them. I can only beat me, because nobody can beat me at being Shakir. Nobody. I can't beat you being Denores. I can try, but I can't do it. Right? So there will be a time where you have to just do it out of obedience. After God allows you to fail and learn a few times and learn, he starts to add to you little by little. In other words, you start seeing that dream start coming right back again. The passion start coming right back again. And it's going to scare you when it starts coming back, because you're like, oh Lord, I don't want to hurt again. But you know what? If it's coming back like that, that means you're ready. And not only you're ready, but the environment is ready for you. Because the Bible says that Pharaoh died. And then there was a whole other generation that was waiting to see what Moses had to say. So God was not just working on just you, he was also working on the people. Last time the people ran him out. His own people ran him out. But this time they were ready to receive, we have to say. Now, they gave him a headache still, you all know the story. But the point is, God will make sure that not only you're ready, but he want to make sure that the people are ready as well. Because you got to be ready to catch what you're going to throw, and they got to be ready to catch what you're about to throw at them. It was too early last time for you to throw it out there. Now it's not early, it's right on time. Y'all hear me? And if you take just this quick little teaching and you do it the way, and this is just something that God's given me, of course, for just this year, you got to recognize that timing. If you look at that timing, don't worry about the success. The success will come looking for you. Okay? You ain't got to beat down the door for success. It'll come looking for you. All right? So go for it. Y'all hear me? Go for it. If you fail, it's not like you haven't tasted failure before, right? It's just a new flavor of whipped cream on it. It's still failure. But if you go for it, knowing that, Lord, I'm only doing this because that's what you called me to do, and I'm being obedient, and your dream has survived the crocodiles, the crying has not stopped, it's still in you at all of these years, it's still there, you need to go for it. Stop wasting everybody's time and just go for it. Y'all hear me? Did y'all hear that? Did y'all get anything? Okay. So this year, you'll get the opportunity, but make sure you don't look left and right. Make sure that when it's time and you put all of your ducks in a row, all of your plans in a row, sit down and ask God, is this a green light or not? Because he didn't give it to you just so you can just sit by it and build up Ra and build up Pithom and Ramesses. It's for you, for somebody else, all right? And you'll drown all those enemies in the Red Sea. And it's a whole lot quicker than bearing them one at a time. Okay? You can't do it one at a time. And that's another thing. If you try to do it yourself and it seems like you're the only one doing it, then you're doing it yourself when it comes to that, and there's no real God factor, then you need to stop and see, is God in this? Or is it just me doing this? Okay? That ought to be a good sign to help you out. I hope this teaching was at least good for you all for this season. So that's all I got.
Thank you for listening to Upon the Rock broadcast. If you enjoyed this message, please visit the church website at thefoundedworld.org for a free download. Also, please be sure to share this message with your family and friends on social media sites to help spread the word of God. Have a great week.